We all share the music, the love for music making, and that's important, never to lose that. And or to learn from each other. I know there was a time when or you were jazz or you were classic. Now both worlds have merged in a certain way, and there's no more not so much many barriers between one and the other.
Where does it come the attraction for the gypsy music to you?
It's full of soul. Everything that is from the heart and from your deeper inner soul, it interests me a lot.
Very happy to have here tonight on my podcast one of the greatest living legends, jazz musicians, and not only jazz, classical musician, one of the greatest piano player that have ever lived and is alive. And it's an honor for me to call him as a friend. I know him for almost more than 10 years. We play together, and it's a great honor for me to have here him as a guest. My honor to have here Michel Camilo.
Thank you, Damian. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for having you here. I'm so happy to have you here. So I started a series of jazz videos. My first video part of the podcast. I have a podcast which is very popular in Romania and in Europe. And the first video was with the president of Berklee College of Music, Roger Brown. And you are the second one. And then the series they're gonna go on with many jazz musicians. So you are the second one. I mean, actually, the first musician, Roger, was only as an executive of the Berklee College of Music. So you are the first musician. Thank you so much. So, Michel Camilo, I will start with the first question that I ask everybody on the podcast. Who are you?
Well, for what you said who I am. I'm a pianist, a musician, composer. And I was born in the Dominican Republic, in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And in 1979, then I moved to New York and to continue my studies. I had graduated from the National Conservatory of Music down there. And I also had played since I was 16 with the National Symphony Orchestra as a member of the percussion section, playing the piano parts and the percussion section. And then I came to New York to follow my studies, my graduate studies. So I went also to Juilliard, the famous classical piano school, and also to Mannes College of Music to study composition. So I did a double major kind of thing. And then I became a pupil of a famous teacher, Jacob Latiner, who was a wonderful piano teacher in New York. And he took me in as his pupil. So I took a lot of private lessons with him. And with many other composers, and arrangers. I also studied jazz arranging with Don Sebesky.
Oh my God, amazing, genius.
Yes, and and it was, I really came to New York and I soaked it in. I did all kinds of different things. I even worked on Broadway with the famous film director, Bob Fosse.
Wow, amazing.
In a hit Broadway show called Dancing, while I was going to Juilliard. So, I also played there in that show, or I conducted the show sometimes as well. It was a great learning experience, all of it.
Especially the 80s, they were really burning, I mean, for jazz music and for musicians in general.
Oh, yeah, always. And then the beauty of that job on Broadway was that I had the freedom to keep on going and go to the jazz clubs in the late shifts, in the late nights. And also and to the jam sessions and all of that. So, I've been doing the New York experience, fully ever since I arrived here. And in 1983 was a pivotal moment because two different things happened pretty much around 1982, 1983. It was my international debut, which was kind of an accidental debut because in reality, a friend of mine whose name was Jorge Dalto, great Argentinian jazz pianist, who used to play with George Benson and with Tito Puente. He couldn't make a concert to go with Tito Puente to the Montreal Jazz Festival. So he recommended me to go. He had heard me at the jam sessions, and he always loved the way I played.
I remember that story. I was once about 12 years ago at a concert of yours at Carnegie Hall.
Right.
And you said that story.
And it's a beautiful moment, because it just happened. And then I went to to Montreal without even knowing Tito Puente in person. I only talked to him on the phone, and then I met him on stage, and then we just played a beautiful show. Thank God that is captured for posterity in video. It's called Tito Puente in Montreal. Great. So I played with him, and then in the audience, Paquito de Rivera was there, and he didn't know who I was, so he came backstage, and right there he offered me the job to be his pianist.
Unbelievable. So that's how you started with Paquito.
Yeah, at that time I was also playing with a different band in New York, an American band called French Toast. Mm-hmm. And we made an album also in 1984 called French Toast. And it was for a Japanese market. But that particular band was formed by studio musicians, musicians that we recorded a lot of session musicians, in the recordings. And it was a very heavy duty band. And that's where I met Anthony Jackson, and I met Dave Weckl, and also Steve Gadd recorded with us in that album. All
the heavy cats.
Yeah, exactly. And Lou Soloff, all the big names.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful band because we was very experimental, and we used to play at this club called Michel's. Doesn't exist anymore, but it was very seminal because that was not just a jazz club, but it was also R&B club. And it was very famous in the Upper West Side in Manhattan, in 97th Street and Columbus Avenue. And, that's where I met, for example, George Benson. He was sitting in the audience checking us out, one night. Or Chaka Khan used to be there hanging out, and David Sanborn, it was like that kind of...
Everybody, yeah. The place where everybody would come.
Yeah, and mainly musicians in the audience also.
So please tell me, how was Michel as a young kid? A troublemaker or...
Hyperactive.
Yes. I'm sure that's why I'm asking, because I'm also very agitated and stuff. But also from your playing and from your personality, I'm sure that you are really all over the place, like
always moving, always searching. But the thing is, for some reason, I inherited the musical gene from my family because my family had two generations of composers and musicians, before me, and. Just by watching my uncles and my aunts, who play the piano, the accordion, or the guitar, or the percussion, and some of them sang as well, I was soaking in the music since I was 4 years old. And then all of a sudden, my parents gave me a little accordion for Christmas.
No way.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I started picking up the melodies by ear, and that's where they realized, oh, wow, he has an ear. And I played, the first song was Silent Night.
No way.
Yeah, I picked it up myself. I found the right notes. And then the second one was Happy Birthday because it was my aunt's birthday. So I figured out the notes also. And then after that, very fast, in that first year, I started composing my own songs, and my own melodies. And then they realized I had a musical talent. And
by what age did your parents took the decision that he's going to go into music? I mean, it was already set that you're going to make music, or it was your choice?
No, it was really my choice. Because in my family, even with all these composers and musicians, they were not professional. They were mainly for hobby, and they had some other career.
So you're not obligated to make music. I mean, it was, if you wanted, you could have been something else.
Exactly. In fact, I studied medicine. Most people don't know that. I studied 3.5 years of medicine.
No way.
Yeah. And I was really good at it. I was like the top.
Maybe that's why your music is so healing, because you are a musical doctor.
Some people have said that, and there is some stories about my music being healing music.
Exactly.
As well.
It has that power. Yeah.
So, but the thing is, I when I turned 9, because I was already in love with the piano, because at my grandparents, there was a big piano, and my uncle used to play beautiful piano. So I used to sit next to him and check out what he was doing. And I didn't have a piano at home. So I asked my parents to send me to the National Conservatory when I was 9. And that's when I made a switch from accordion to piano. And then the first year, they made a deal with me. if I had good grades, then they would buy me a piano the next year.
Wow.
So that first year, all my lessons, since I had an ear already open, I drew a keyboard in a piece of cardboard, and I used to practice silent, hearing the notes in my head. And then they realized, and I got great grades, and then they bought me my first
piano
when I was 10. And then I went really fast because but like I said before, by the time I was 16 years old, then I became a full-fledged member of the National Symphony Orchestra. But something happened when I was.
Were you attracted to jazz from the beginning, or you're more? I mean, I know that you're playing classical, but did you enjoy listening to jazz, or you're totally obsessed with classical music?
For at that time, I was mainly into classical music, but I discovered jazz when I was 14, because another cousin of mine, a second cousin of mine, used to be a big jazz collector, and he also used his own collection and had a 2-hour radio show every Monday. So I just happened to tune on the radio and listen to my cousin's radio show, and it was a jazz music only show. So I really say, oh wow, what is this? When I heard the greatest pianist of all time, Art Tatum.
Oh my God!
So I completely was in shock. It was like classical music to me.
Yeah.
The absolute command of the instrument and incredible variations and all these pianistic, fireworks.
Incredible. And especially in the 20s when he was doing that, he was like really from another planet.
Forget it.
Exactly.
I said, what is this music? I need to learn this music. And then I started borrowing records from my cousin and transcribing and trying to understand it. And something really happened, also, and I believe in this in my life. It's happened many, many times, coincidences that are not really coincidences. When I was playing then in the symphony, then a new theater, National Theater, was being built in the Santo Domingo. So for this festival that lasted 1 month, inauguration festival, they brought reinforcement musicians from New York. And then they came, and then I remember in the middle of a rehearsal, I went to the piano and started playing the blues. And some of the American musicians came around the piano and said, "Wait, hey,
you play the blues, you play jazz."
I said, "Well, you're pretty good." I said, "Yeah, but I'm playing here." They said, "No, you should be in New York." And they planted the seed right there. You should be in New York. And one of them, who was an amazing percussionist, his name is Gordon Gottlieb. He used to record with Leonard Bernstein, and we play with the New York Philharmonic and all that. He invited me to come to New York. He said, "You come to New York, I'll show you around." So I came.
So they planted the seed already.
Yeah, and then he took me around all the jazz clubs. We used to do 2 or 3 jazz clubs a night, and I went and listened to all the new names and the new guys. I listened to Herbie Hancock, Keith Jarrett, Chick Corea live. Bill Evans. And saw amazing concerts, and that was an incredible experience to be in New York, because up until that moment, all I knew about jazz was the swing tradition.
Yeah. You didn't have access to all that music.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I landed in New York, and the hottest guys, the new young guys, were, Keith and Herbie.
There.
And they were killing it. We were doing these new experiments, Return to Forever and all this maiden voyage.
Yeah, oh my God.
I went back to Santo Domingo with my head like this, full of ideas and full of new sound.
I can imagine. Now,
and then that's when I decided I must then look at jazz and go to New York at some point.
So that was the moment that you decided that you want to do jazz.
Yeah, I decided I wanted to do search in this world. And since I was a composer since such a long, I saw improvisation as instant composition.
Exactly.
And for me, it was a natural. Oh, I love this. You improvise.
Now for the young kids, students, adolescents that they are looking at us. Did classical music help you a lot in order to have the control that you have over the instrument, because you are such a virtuoso? So all this preparation, it helped you to cross over into the jazz world, no? That's what I want to come across. I mean, for people to understand that all that the beginning with the classical music helped you a lot, no?
For sure, I believe so. I know there was a time when, or you were jazz or you were classical.
Yeah.
Last century. That was, for me, that was the last century. Not anymore. Now, both worlds have merged in a certain way. And there's no more, not so much many barriers between one and the other. And all you have to do is your frame of mind.
Exactly.
For me, it really gave me the facility in the instrument and the command, absolute command of what I hear, what I feel, to be able to perform it and to play it. You know, I used to have a teacher that say, what good is it to hear all this wonderful music if you cannot play it?
Exactly. That's a very good way.
So that's important, you know, it gives you freedom. And the more you have at your command, your instrument, the more you can explore and the wider you can really go. And there's no limit. So you don't feel limited when you play the keyboard. On the contrary, you feel free, and each time you grow. So
you would recommend, I mean, it's a good beginning to start, even before just to start with some classical knowledge for the young students.
It will help, you know, it will avoid problems later on, technical problems. You know, you won't get tendonitis, you won't have problems in your technique, and, you know, you'll find solutions how to express what you want to play. And it gives you a lot of facility. And also, most of all, it'll give you a long career.
Exactly.
You know, because pianists, we have the advantage that we can play all the way to the 90s, you know, until we're 90.
Exactly.
Arthur Rubinstein, he played into 92.
Exactly.
You know, and Horowitz and all these guys. So, you know, in a certain way, if you really want to last and you don't want to have problems later on, it helps to have some classical training, I think. You know, if you don't want to become a classical pianist, it's okay. I happen to enjoy both. So later on, when I thought I was already established as a jazz musician, you know, being in New York, another coincidence happened, which is that after I recorded my first album for Sony Music, Michel Camilo, self-titled. Then I went, they took me to do a big showcase, Sony Music showcase at Midem in France, you know, in Cannes. And then that night was 4 different artists. It was John McLaughlin, it was John Fares, and it was one duo classical pianist, Katia and Marielle Labec.
Okay.
And then my trio as
wow.
well. So we all played, but you know, when the Labec sisters, they heard that there was another pianist in the bill, they stayed to listen to me. And the minute they heard me play, I started hearing them, you know, cheering from the side of the stage. And then at the end, we went to dinner together. We became very good friends. And then they told me, you're classical. I said, well, I was classical. I was trained classical. Now I am jazz. He said, no.
You are classical.
The way you play the piano, you're classical. You don't lose that, you know?
Yeah, because it's something that you got inside of your blood. I mean, you got the amazing skills of crossing over to jazz, but also you have the training, which is incredible.
Yeah, and then, you know, and then you have the nuances and the textures and the colors, exactly. You know, and you know, the different...
The touche and everything.
The touche, yeah, exactly, the touche on the keyboard, you know. So they told me, no, you're classical. And in fact, they took me on tour then. They took me on a tour with 3 pianos. And that's how I came back to the classical world.
No way.
Because in this tour, they had a special tour called Music of the 20th Century. And in that tour...
You're playing music from the 20th century.
Everything. We played from Duke Ellington to Chick Corea to John McLaughlin to
Ravel, Debussy to, I guess.
Exactly, to Bartók, to Stravinsky, to Gershwin. You know, so it was all together.
Yeah.
And then out of that tour, they actually commissioned me to convert some of my jazz pieces
to classical.
And then eventually they also commissioned me to write a rhapsody for 2 pianos and symphony orchestra, which was premiered in London by them at the Royal Festival Hall, and with the Philharmonia Orchestra. And then the word of mouth started happening among conductors and orchestras, and eventually now I have 3 different concerti.
Concerto, yeah, I know. So now, one question that I have to you is, after your career emerges as a star once you have the debut also at the Carnegie Hall, and then once you start working with Paquito. Tell us about this thing and your first album. Why not? I think it was your first album with Paquito, no?
That's another interesting story, because what happened is when I used to play at Michel's, that club, the R&B and jazz, you know, that's where I heard also Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers with the very young Wynton Marsalis and Branford Marsalis. They had just arrived in New York at that time. And Terence Blanchard later on came also in there. You know, a lot of the heavy future musicians, and Benny Green was around, and all these guys, James Williams. Anyway, the thing is, I used to play there with at the beginning with my sextet, because I had a sextet at that time, and eventually what happened is the famous Brazilian jazz pianist and singer Tania Maria used to come listen to me there, and she was a fan of my music, and she always loved the way I played and the way I improvised. So she asked me to be her opening act at Carnegie Hall. But she said, you can only play in trio. I said, well, I don't play in trio, I play with sextet. And she said, no, I'm going to have 4 musicians, and you cannot have more musicians than me. That's what she said. So you have to, make a special repertoire, pick 3 or 4 songs, and you play 40 minutes as a opening act for me at Carnegie Hall. I said, okay, Tanya, whatever you want. So my trio was Anthony Jackson on bass and Dave Weckl on drums.
And drums.
At that time.
Wow.
And that was the debut of my trio at Carnegie Hall. So we went there, and with 3 or 4 of my songs, we played, and it was a huge hit. The audience went totally crazy. And then she told me at the end, you see, I told you, you need to play in trio.
She had the experience, she knew.
Yeah, she knew. And that's the beginning of my trio. And that's how then I combine both. Sometimes sextet, sometimes trio. And at that time, also the Brecker brothers, Randy and Michael Brecker, they used to have a club downtown in the village called 7th Avenue South. So we started also alternating between uptown and downtown. And that other club, the Brecker brothers, was very experimental also. Jaco Pastorius used to be hanging out around there, all the musicians, Jerry Gonzalez, a lot of different Forte Apache band, all the currents that were happening in New York. So we all met around in one or the other, either downtown or uptown. And it was really important at that moment in New York. It was important because at the beginning of the 80s, there was a little down moment in jazz in New York. And the major labels were not signing any new talent.
Anymore. Yeah.
No. So that's why my first 2 albums came from Japan. You see, Why Not and Suntan both were Japanese releases.
Okay.
And it's not until the 3rd release of mine that I get signed to Sony.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
And he was in trio. And the reason that happened also, another great coincidence, by then I was playing at the Blue Note in New York.
Okay.
I had upgraded to the Blue Note, And then I was playing in trio. And one night, the famous vibraphonist, Lionel Hampton.
Oh my God.
He came to listen to me because his niece was a fan of mine. I didn't know that. So she brought him to check this pianist out, So he was there. And that same night, the famous jazz impresario, George Wein.
Yeah.
God bless his soul. He showed up, and the 2 of them were friends for a long time. So they sat together to listen to me. And then they loved the music and they loved the trio. And then right after the set, George Wein and Lionel, both of them come to my dressing room. Lionel invited me to play with him at Town Hall in New York in a yearly concert that he used to do. And then George Wein asked me, why don't you record in America? I said, well, I record, but it's in Japan, And he said, well, you should be recorded in America, And then he said, do you have the material ready? I said, yeah, you just heard it. That's what I play. I have it ready. I'll record it someday. I said, no, you're recording it next week, and I'm paying for it.
No way.
He took me to the recording studio, and that is the first album, Michel Camilo, which went to #1 in the Billboard Jazz charts for 8 weeks straight, and it was
so he signed you, actually, George Wein. He signed you.
Yeah, and that's that catapulted my career.
Amazing. God bless his soul. Amazing.
That's how it happened, and that's how the whole thing came together. And then by the same time, I was touring with Paquito. I didn't stop. And then with Paquito, I made 2 albums. Paquito was a very gracious leader.
Amazing musician. Amazing musician.
Yeah, also another person that also goes both ways. He was classically trained.
Yeah.
He's an incredible clarinet player, classical clarinetist. And very much influenced, of course, by Charlie Parker.
Yeah, on the saxophone.
beautiful saxophone player as well. And, I toured with him and recorded with him.
Many years.
Beautiful albums. One of them is called Why Not, which is the title of one of my compositions. And the other one is Explosion.
Yeah.
And now they merged it into a Best of Paquito. I think it's re-released at both albums as one. And, we keep in touch. And once in a while, for example, I came to Carnegie Hall with Paquito to celebrate his 50th anniversary in music. And he did a special concert with VIPs and Bebo Valdez was there. And,
Yeah.
And myself, and we had a beautiful evening with him, celebrating his career.
Amazing.
So we keep in touch.
So for many years, you said that your first deal was with Anthony Jackson and Dave Weckl. I'm also good friends with Dave, and he's also on the album that we were together on, The American Dream, if you remember.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And then after Anthony, you start working with El Negro.
After Dave, you mean?
Yeah.
After Dave. Yeah, what happened is that the Negro was discovered by Chick Corea.
I know, yeah.
Chick Corea took him. Chick Corea heard Dave believe it or not, in a demo that I had made for Tania Maria.
Okay.
At that time, because I dedicated to her one song, and then Chick loved the playing of Dave, and then he hired him. But then before Negro, then Dave recommended his roommate, who was Joel Rosenblatt.
Yeah. Oh my God, amazing. I know. Yeah.
Another amazing drummer. But they had been roommates at college, the two of them, and they were very good friends. And Joel was always there, hanging out with us at Michel's, and he knew the music because he was always there in the rehearsals and everything, hanging out. So the minute Dave left, and then Dave said, "No, don't worry, Joel knows your music already. He played." And then that's why Joel is more featured with me in the Suntan album.
Yeah.
And also in the Michel Camilo, he's also playing there as well. And so Joel stayed with me for a while until he moved on and he went to Spyro Gyra.
Yeah.
And he became
the drummer of Spyro Gyra. And then you got with
no, then Dave recommended me another friend of his, very young drummer from San Diego, Cliff Almond.
Yeah, I remember him too.
Yeah, who came, I had 2 days of auditions in New York for drummers. And then all of a sudden, this young blonde guy shows up, with glasses like this.
And you're like, is he going to play Latin?
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, I told him, okay, so which song you want to play? I have the music. He said, no, I know all your songs. I said, how do you know my songs? He said, no, Dave sent me all the tapes, the live tapes. So also call it. Okay, I'll call the songs. And then all of a sudden he knew my music, and there was no contest. So I told the other auditioners, sorry guys, this guy is already lights years ahead.
It was the right guy. He had everything in the pocket.
Yeah, exactly. So Cliff stayed with me for a long time, and he's still today. He records with me. He of course plays with many different people.
Yeah.
Sometimes with he freelances these days.
Yeah.
Because I have opened my world. I'm playing a lot of solo concerts. I play a lot of symphony concerts, and I'm also touring also with Tomatito.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna go to that section too. So then, with Anthony Jackson, you worked for many years together.
Oh yeah, Anthony, my brother, my musical brother, for many years, more than 20 years together. Until he also moved on, because he moved to the West Coast for briefly to work with the Average White Band and Steve Ferroni and those guys for a while. That didn't work out so well for him, but he came back to New York later on. But then when Anthony moved on, then I had a beautiful young player that I met playing with Betty Carter. His name was Michael Bowie.
Yeah.
And he was an upright player. I didn't want another electric bass player because Anthony was so strong. I said, Anthony ever. It's like, why do I want to frustrate myself? Anthony's like genius.
Because he knew you so well. I mean, you had such an amazing connection. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. And so playing so much music for so many years. He like had ESP with me. It was like a 7 cents, not even 6 cents. It was 7 cents. So I said, forget it. It's like a new sound. So I started going, and then it was important at that moment to change the sound of the trio, and that's what I did Mark Johnson also, who had played with Bill Evans.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, amazing.
A big Bill Evans fan.
Yeah. I'm a big Bill Evans fan too. But there are people they confuse because there are two Mark Johnson. The Mark Johnson, the bass player.
The bass player.
Exactly.
The bass player. So I had met him, and he toured with me also, and he recorded with me the first album and the second album as well, the Michel Camilo and the On Fire album as well. And Mark, who is married to Eliana Elias.
Yeah.
He was beautiful player, beautiful.
Amazing bass player. He used to play with a friend of mine from New York. You know him, in a band with Ara Dinchkian and Arto Tunsboyasian. They used to have that Armenian project, if you remember. Yeah, an amazing project. Yeah.
Mark is an incredible musician, tasty,
unbelievable taste, incredible taste.
And sense of space. And, all of a sudden, it was like a big contrast between his playing and Anthony.
Yeah.
Fusion.
Completely different.
But Mark came and, he did something to my playing as well. Because, I was able to bring out my other side as well. My more straight ahead side.
I personally have seen that too. And it's good that we share this, that it's so amazing. I have right now a bass player in our band that has been with us for like 12 years in the gypsy band, the Damian Brothers that I told you about, not jazz, playing gypsy music, but gypsy music, a fusion of Latino, rock, pop, jazz. It's really weird what we're doing. And there is one of the bass player, Paul is his name, which is like, he's got everything in the pocket. It's like, and any drummer, any accordion player, any trumpet comes, everybody's like, oh my God, he's from a different planet. And then we get other bass players when he's not available coming with us to replace them for a gig. They are the top 3 or 4 bass players in Romania or in Eastern Europe. But it's not that they are not good, because, I'm here officially, but they give us a different sense of playing. Like more spacey, like you said. And it's funny because everybody said the same thing. It gets out another side of me that with the other bass player, I would never get that side out of me. You understand? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Of course. That's the beauty of jazz. Everybody contributes something. And, it's very important. Dr. Billy Taylor, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He was a good friend of mine. And he told me one anecdote about Art Tatum, actually. Because, he was a protege of Art Tatum. Mm-hmm. And he used to go with him in the evenings to all the different clubs. And he told me that Art Tatum used to go to listen to this rinky-dinky pianist under the bridge, that he didn't understand why Art liked his pianist, because his pianist could barely play. He didn't have any technique, nothing. And, finally he couldn't hold himself back. And he asked Art, why do you make me take you to this place to listen to this pianist? He's nothing compared to you, whatever, and
yeah.
You're not. And Art said these very wise words. He said, "You're not listening."
Wow. Amazing.
That's a big lesson.
Yeah. It's not listening.
Everybody contributes something. Everybody has a voice. And, I always see it that way. All the different players. I've been very lucky to play with some of the top players ever.
I know.
Drummers and bass players, like I told you, I played a very special concert in New York at the Beacon Theater with Jaco Pastorius, an all-star band that night with two Stillmans, Paquito, Ayrton Moreira, Flora, and Jaco was on bass. It was like a dream,
a dream come true.
Music as well. And, he was an incredible player, completely incredible. And, you learn from each one, everybody brings something different.
There are a lot of people in Romania, and my story a bit, and there are a lot of people, and they ask me, Damian, how did you end up going to Berkeley? Because I was the first Romanian band gypsy that ended up at Berkeley in 1997, and with a pamphlet, which was completely weird. But Berkeley accepted me, and then they said, you learn a lot of stuff at Berkeley. Yes, of course, I learned a lot of stuff at Berkeley. I know that you have a doctorate from Berkeley. I learned amazing stuff, but the most incredible stuff was like, from the first moment at Berkeley, the experience in the jam sessions with all the other musicians that you learn more than actually from the school. And then after going out of school, it was the same thing. I was with Jamie Haddad, the drummer from New York. Jamie heard me and he sent the tape to Dave Liebman, the saxophone player. And Dave Liebman sent something else to somebody else, and somebody else said, oh, come here and play with me. And it's like in your case. But the most important thing is that you learn by playing with other people and listening to them. That's what I think is the most amazing thing. Is you can stay at home and practice alone like crazy, 15 hours a day, and it's nothing going to happen unless you play with many different people.
Exactly. And the exposure, everybody grows, you know, even my students. That's why sometimes I teach master classes as well, because I also learn as a teacher.
Exactly.
They ask me questions, you know, and they make me verbalize what I do, which I always take for granted, you know, because that's the way I hear music. But, you know, then I have to explain it to them. And then, you know, and then they play whatever they play. And I say, oh, so, you know, it's a two-way street. It's not only a one-way street.
That's exactly. We have a lot of people that are watching us, especially jazz musicians too. And I think that's why it's a great honor for people and for me to learn from you and all your experience and all your genius, is that actually in the experience with playing with other people, and especially with great cats, it also sometimes it humbles you. Because I remember when I came at Berkeley, also being with the pan flute and listening to Coltrane and Charlie Parker, and you know, the obsession with Coltrane, like everybody, and with Chick and stuff. I wanted at the moment the other guy was with a sax or something, you know, because with the pan flute it's also it's a restricted instrument. I would be the pan flute and like, okay, and now I mean, to blow everything. And then once I start playing with the real cats, I was like, okay, humble down. It's not about the notes. Yeah, because usually what was happening, and you know that, in the first 16 bars, I would say everything. And then I was like, man, what's happening now? I don't have nothing else to say.
Exactly. No, you know, it's all, exactly. That's the famous phrase in jazz. Tell a story.
Exactly.
Make sure you tell a story. You know, even that humbleness is so important. We have to underline it. You know, one of the most beautiful moments that I can remember is the last time I saw Chick Corea. We saw each other.
God rest himself. God rest his soul. Amazing.
We were very good friends, you know, and then, you know, he was playing at this festival in St. Moritz, and then Joey Alexander and myself, we were in the audience because we played the next day in the same festival. But we were able to be there, and then Chick was playing with Bella Fleck at the duo that they had, beautiful duo.
Beautiful.
And then, you know, Chick, after the show, he sent for me and for Joey to come backstage and meet him in his dressing room. And then he had a keyboard in the dressing room. And all of a sudden, the minute I walked in, this is the most beautiful moment you can even imagine. I wasn't expecting it. He goes to the keyboard and said, man, what you did to my Armando's rumba, I love this syncopation that you put in there. And then he plays it back at me, because I had recorded it with Tomatito.
Yeah, I know.
And he loved the version. And he said, now, you know, you messed my head, because now I changed my arrangement. I put that syncopation in there. I love the way you did that. So, you know, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I mean. We all share the music, the love for music making. And that's important, never to lose that. And or to learn from each other, you know.
Exactly.
It's so important.
Well, what are some of the experiences and stories, musical stories, that you can share with us that you never share with other people, that it teaches some amazing lessons throughout your, I'm sure that it's full of them throughout your life. Like one of these with Chick.
Yeah, well, you know, when I played with Tomatito at Marciac Jazz Festival,
where all my family is there. It's full of my gypsy people.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I think we were playing on a gypsy night, believe it or not. I think Shavolo Schmidt was also playing with his big, you know. So the thing is, this was a beautiful moment too, because, you know, most people don't know that Paco de Lucia was a big fan of ours.
Wow.
Of our duo. And he's always been a very good friend he was always a great friend of Tomatito.
Yeah.
The two of them share a lot. And in fact, when Tomatito joined the Camarón de la Isla, the flamenco singer of all time, was the recommendation from Paco de Lucia that got him, because Paco had just left and then he became a solo guitarist, you know, and he started his solo career. And then he recommended Tomatito. And that's how Tomatito, he was only 17 years old when he started with Camarón at that time. and he played for so many years.
Yeah, I know.
Until Camarón died, and then that's when we met after Camarón died. Anyway, you know, Paco, he loved what we did as a duet, and then also, you know, for that concert in Marciac, the phone rings, the cell of Tomatitos ring, and he's Paco, and he says, "I'm coming to listen to you guys." I thought, no, come on, stop joking. He said, no, I bought a house in the Pyrenees, and I'm going to show up with some of my friends. So can you get me in? And he said, of course. just let him know. He said, no, I'm on my way now already.
Oh my God.
So he said, I'm hungry. You know, save me some food, and I'll see you there. I've never been to that festival. Paco had not been into that festival yet. So he shows up into the dressing room, and he's hanging out with us. And, you know, imagine how Tomatito had to feel having Paco de Lucia right in front of him, right there in the front row. They put him right there, next to the mayor of the city, you know, who was the jazz promoter there.
Yeah.
So he, you know, Paco is sitting like this, you know, checking. You know, that's a typical pose of Paco.
Yeah.
Checking us out. And Tomatito played beautifully. In fact, I've been putting some of it, the cuts of that particular performance, in my Facebook. Because he played incredible. You know, Paco is there. He better play.
Yeah, I can imagine. It must have been for him.
Yeah. And then, you know, Paco was amazing. And, he had a very nice sense of humor. So he comes backstage and says, "Is there any more like you in your country?" I said, "I don't think so."
He wanted another one. He wanted another one.
Yeah, he wanted another one. You know, because it's so much easier. That way I can dump my band and I just take I form a duo.
I'm very good friends with maybe you know him, Javier Limon, the producer of PIM.
He's a good friend of mine too.
Exactly. And Javier told me a story, a funny story. They were together with Paco in Paco. He was in Brazil with Antonio Carlos Jobim, and Jobim had his own stadium to play football, soccer. You know, because he was a big fan of soccer. And we were talking to Javier. We were working on a project in Spain, and after drinking lots of wine and with many musicians, and we were talking about practicing. You know, because most of musicians, they say, and in the gypsy world, as you know very well, most of the gypsies, they practice when they are young, and then they just play a lot, but they don't have time to practice. They don't stay at home, you know, in our culture. And everybody's like, but how can you be so virtuoso when you don't practice? But yeah, because you play 10 hours a day. So it's like practicing, but you play with other people. So Jobim asks Paco, "Hey, Paco, do you practice?" It's like, "Why? I practiced when I was 10 years old." It's enough.
Well, it's true, you know, and it's true, absolutely true, because, you know, when Paco played Carnegie Hall, actually, we had lunch in New York, and then he told me, "I don't know how I'm going to play tonight because I haven't put the hands in the guitar for 1 year." I said, "You mean you didn't practice? You play Carnegie Hall tonight?" He said, "No. So, you know, sorry if I play some wrong notes." Of course, he didn't play any wrong notes.
Of course not.
It was a beautiful evening, and, you know, it was incredible. I was sitting in one of those booths in the second tier, and all of a sudden I hear next to me somebody screaming, and you know who he was? It was Keith Jarrett. So, small world, right?
Yeah.
And he was going crazy with Paco's playing that.
Where is the attraction of the gypsy music? Where does it come, the attraction for the gypsy music to you? Because I was always impressed, and I never got a chance to ask you this. This is a premiere, guys. I asked him for the first time.
It's full of soul. Everything that is from the heart and from your deeper inner soul, it interests me a lot. And I always felt that. It was the passion of this music. It's so full of passion and celebration of life, you know, in all, and also deep pain, deep joy, you know.
Exactly. So we are bipolar. We are bipolar.
And it's the way life is. It's just that it's better expressed, let's put it that way, and maybe more overt, more, you know, to be shared by everyone.
Do you find lots of similarities in the gypsy music with your culture and your music with the Latino side?
It relates. For me, it relates. You know, because for us, the Latin music has a grandmother, and for us, the grandmother is Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because we all in Latin music, we have something that ties to Africa.
Exactly.
You know, all the slaves that we
Exactly.
had and everything, and the culture. We're all mixed bloods. So
And for us is like India and Africa, and also the being slaves. So it's almost the same thing, but in the different parts of the world, I guess.
So there is also in the background, there is a lot of suffering, you know, that went into to these cultures, you know, the striving for a better life, the dreaming of a better life, and, you know, the everyday struggle.
The pain.
Yeah, also, you know, I mean, we are third world country, and, you know, things are not that easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, you really need to struggle a lot, and you have to fight to get to your dreams, you know?
But I will have to share something with you, which is really funny. Look, I got even emotional. You cannot imagine how many Roma, gypsy people of my people, in Romania, in Bulgaria, in Greece, in Spain, in Turkey, in Serbia, in all of Europe, they love what you do, particularly with Tomatito, but they see in you, I mean, I don't know how to say it I will say it in a gypsy way, not in an American way. In the gypsy world, we don't have, like, you know, usually in the States, to be politically correct, when you don't compare people, you say, you know, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, they are all good. In the gypsy world, they are very cutthroat. You know, I love Michael Jordan, is the best. You know, they don't know how to do this. Yeah.
Okay.
And for them, you are the piano player out of all the piano players that you express exactly their feelings, because you're being so the storyteller when you do the ballad, and then going into that fury. I guess you are the perfect match for our culture. You know, for the pain, and then for that thing of glory of life. Makes sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, of course. You know, it's my temperament. I always say, you know, life is too short. You better enjoy while you can.
And that's actually the motto of gypsy life, because we never knew if we're going to make it tomorrow or not, or if we're going to get killed or something. So
exactly, you know, and it's never been more apparent than now. These last 2 years has been, or a year and a half, however you want to put it, but it's been traumatic for everybody. And, you know, there is so much inside that you want to express, and there is so much now. Even, you know, I feel myself like I'm a volcano.
Exactly.
Explode, you know?
Exactly.
Because I miss my audience and I miss my touring, and, you know, for protection, of course, we had to hit pause for a while, and, you know, but it's a big sacrifice.
I promise you for a long time, and I will keep my promise. I make it now officially, not only between the two of us. I will bring you to Romania, and we're going to have an amazing concert, possibly also with Tomatito and with a gypsy band, with the gypsy musicians, because lots of people, they are waiting for you here like crazy. I promise you, I swear to you.
That would be so beautiful.
I mean,
well, you know what? You never know, because, you know, one of my upcoming concerts is in Vienna in March with the Janoska ensemble.
Oh, no way! Yeah. I know them very well.
They invited me to their, you know,
to their
concert house in Vienna. And, you know, it took some years in planning, but finally we're making it.
I'm so happy. So in March, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
In March, that's hopefully, if everything is okay.
Yeah. Hopefully.
When I go back on tour, I have Prague, I have Geneva, I have Vienna.
Let's see. Maybe we can make something happen, because from Vienna to Bucharest is not very far. It's only 1 hour.
Oh wow! So
yeah.
maybe that's the moment to do it. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I have a question for you, for people in general to know how difficult it is, because that's why the podcast, it's about talking about music, life, and personal experiences that usually people don't get a chance to see you in the newspapers or on a TV show. How difficult is to manage, Michel, personal life and professional life when music is so much part of your life?
That's a very good question. In fact, you know, my model for that is Oscar Peterson, who also was a good dear friend, and he had to make choices in life. And there was a documentary that he made at the end where he addressed that with the family, because, you know, he had problems with his own family because they complained that he was never around, you know, for the birthdays and the weddings and whatever, you know. And that's part of the sacrifice. I have never been around for some of the weddings of my nephews and nieces. But we, you know, and also the very first choice, the hardest choice was me and Sandra, my wife. We made a very early choice.
She's an amazing, 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 amazing woman. I know her, and God bless you. She's like really incredible.
Thank you, yes. You know, the two of us, we decided early on that we wanted to have the musical life, you know, the life of a concert artist, and to be able to be free to tour the world together. Because she became my personal manager worldwide. And you know that the biggest sacrifice was we made a conscious decision not to have children.
I know that, yeah.
Okay, we won't have children, but we have a lot of godchildren. we have a lot of godchildren, so we have extended family anyway. And you know, we love them all, and we try to be in touch with all of them, and they all love us. So you know, it's a big extended family. But they have to understand that our lifestyle is very different.
That's why I want you to please, if you can highlight here for the young generation, for people, what are some of the not only sacrifices. I mean, how do you divide your day or your month or your weeks? Like, okay, this is my personal time, and because 99% of the time I know that it's mostly dedicated to music, but maybe for people to hear it, I want you from you.
Well, you know, you have to consider yourself, if you want to be professional, you really require the personal commitment. And, you know, that personal commitment comes from the self-assurance that this is what you came to do in this life. I don't know about the next life or the previous lifetime, but this lifetime, this is what you came to do. Once you realize that, then you have to strive to be the best you can be. And the only way you're going to be the best you can be is by putting in the time. And putting in the time to learn and to practice, because it's not only the practice, it's also the learning, because, you know, it never ends, thank God. You know, there's always something new to learn. So the more you learn, the better you get. And, you know, the more open-minded, because that's the whole thing. Because, you know, if you stay here, then that's going to be your world. But if you open the world completely, there's so much to be learned and to be enjoyed. So then you start looking at life in a very different view, which is the beauty of life, and in all these expressions. So I am a firm believer of something that Duke Ellington said always, which is there's only two types of music: good and not so good. Look at it. He didn't even use the word bad.
Bad, exactly.
And not so good. So you have to tune yourself as an artist. If you want to become an artist, I always also say there are two types of musicians, okay? There is the musician who plays the notes, and then there is the artist who plays the message behind the notes.
So nice. God bless you. Amen. Amen.
So that's what you need. This is what you're striving for. If you're an artist, you have to communicate with your audience. And the only way you're going to communicate is if you're aware of what you're playing at all times.
How many hours do you consider that a musician? I remember Yasha Haifez said that he would spend 3 hours. How many hours a day a musician, in order to keep his chops and in order to learn and in order to be at the same level, he needs to spend on his skills?
I would say 4.
4 hours.
4 hours. Yeah, a minimum. It depends. If I have a certain concerts, like if I'm playing, for example, which I haven't recorded yet, my second piano concerto, which is very virtuoso type of concerto, then I practice at least 6 or 8 hours a day to be in top shape to play with a symphony. You know, it's a totally different discipline.
Of course, yeah.
And it requires a lot of control and touch. You know, because it's not only the music, but also the
concept,
the assurance of the memory.
Exactly.
Also, that you need to be, you know, completely focused. That only you can get by practicing, you know, and over again until it becomes a reflex.
How do you deal with focus? I mean, being able to stay to focus and to get rid of all these everybody nowadays suffers from ADD, ADHD. Everybody has a problem with being distracted. And
yeah, that's the big challenge these days. When I do give master classes, I told them put those iPhones down, put those cell phones. No cell phones. You have to start doing self-discipline, and it's very hard because we are bombarded every day by social media and by the internet and everything, and it's designed to distract you. So you have to be conscious of that. And then, listen, how do you think we had Chopin and Liszt and all these guys? And, even Charlie Parker. I mean,
yeah, exactly. He was practicing 15 hours a day.
Exactly. The first time I played with Michael Brecker in New York, what was shocking to me at that time? And I just arrived in New York, basically. And I played at that club, 777 South with him, was that in between sets, he went back to the dressing room and kept on practicing. He kept on playing against the wall in a corner. He didn't talk to anyone. He just came off the stage. We had just played a beautiful set. And he went straight with the saxophone in his mouth. And he went to that corner and he started playing. And he didn't stop until somebody came and said, okay, Michael, we're ready for second set. That is a learning experience right there. That's a genius. So everybody thinks, how did he play so well? Well, because that's what he did. He loved playing, and he was always working on things.
I know.
I also heard an interview that most people haven't heard. There's a beautiful interview of John Coltrane in Stockholm, where an interviewer asked him, so what are you working on? And he said, I'm still working on solving some lines that I don't come out. And he was already John Coltrane.
Yeah.
So everybody's so conscious about.
And Coltrane was always was never satisfied. I remember reading in his one of his books that he looked for a mouthpiece for 6 years. Yeah, he was obsessed with the sound.
I once asked Dizzy Gillespie, so what did you and Charlie Parker listen to? Tell me. I want to know.
Yeah.
You came with all those bebop lines or whatever. You know what the answer was? It was amazing. Mozart.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
That's what they were listening to. And that's where the added note in the bebop scale came from.
Yeah. If you think about exactly the F to F sharp, that seventh exactly. Yeah.
That's very
I remember in the movie, Clint Eastwood in that movie added a scene, and I know from many musicians that it's true. When Bird went actually to Stravinsky and he wanted to take lessons from him.
Oh, well, no, that was not Stravinsky. That was Varese.
Varese. Oh, okay. Varese.
He was a big fan of Varese. He wanted to study with Varese.
And Varese didn't, no?
Yeah, but at the end he didn't end up studying with him. But do you know what Coltrane was studying? He was studying the Nicolas
Slonimsky. Yeah, we have it. I have it even nowadays. Everybody has it.
The thesaurus of scales, right? The pentatonic and all of that.
Amazing.
Into that.
That guy wrote that in the late 1800s. Slonimsky was a genius.
Completely.
From another planet.
Influence, and a lot of people. The reason why I went to Mannes College of Music to study composition was because I read in Bill Evans's biography that's where he went to study. So I wanted to go to the source. Bill Evans came out of this school and he didn't major in piano. He majored in composition.
Yeah.
That made perfect sense to me because that's why he was able to take Debussy, Ravel, Satie
and transform them exactly into
and bring them to Miles Davis.
Every single chord and everything was sounding like a symphony, and like he was a genius. I mean, I'm still obsessed with Bill. He's like the most amazing. He's like the harp, the string section, and the entire harmony there, like in one thing. It's unbelievable.
Well, he was able to transpose, all those harmonizations and the modality of impressionistic music and bring it to jazz. And thank God for that, because then we have modern jazz.
Exactly. And I think I remember someone telling me that he was always practicing every single harmony and everything in all 12 keys.
What? No, that was Oscar Peterson.
Oscar Peterson, huh?
Yeah, that's in a book called Jazz Pianist.
Yes.
And Oscar, and he told me so, because we had dinner together.
Mm-hmm.
in Spain. I was very lucky, very honored that I was one of the few pianists that he let play his Grand Imperial Bosendorfer.
No way.
Before he played it. You know, I played
Unbelievable.
for him with my trio, and then he was coming right after me. And he let me play his piano. He loved the way I played, you know, with my trio. So he was very generous. You know, that was a big exception, you know, play Oscar.
Of course, I can imagine.
And, you know, I asked him and he said, yeah, man, you know, the only way you're going to develop your fingering, your facility, improvising, is you have to learn each standard in every key, you know, and that way the hands work differently in each one. It gives you facility and it gives you complete control. Then you don't have a problem playing in whatever key.
F, exactly, or A flat.
You start thinking not in terms of chord changes. You start thinking in terms of relationships.
Exactly.
And that he was absolutely right. I've done it several times with different things, and it's a very big learning experience too. It's a live endeavor.
Yeah.
Right, but you know, it happens. You know, I started doing those exercises with another Dominican player who was Mario Rivera. When I arrived in New York, he was a tenor saxophonist, and also he used to play baritone. He used to play baritone with George Coleman's octet.
Wow.
And also, yeah, and he also was playing as a substitute with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis big band, baritone. And he used to play also as a member of Tito Puente Jazz Ensemble.
No way.
And he was a member of the Eddie Palmieri's salsa band as well. So with Mario, we used to do those exercises. Let's take this standard and then start playing it in every key, you know? And, you know, it really happens. If something happens, something clicks.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that when I went to Berkeley. At Berkeley, I was practicing and I started studying privately with Hal Crook, with a trombone player. And then with my teacher at school was George Garzon from New York, you know. And I took private lessons with Jerry Bergonzi. And I went to Jerry, and Jerry, he's like, I called him at the moment. I also called Charlie Banacos, and I went for a bit to Charlie Banacos. And the moment I went to Jerry Bergonzi, I'm like, I played the pamphlet, and he's like, so play I think There Will Never Be Another You. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, it's a bit difficult because it's in E flat, and you know the pamphlet it's in G major. And he's like, I don't give a shit. You have to play this in all 12 keys. And I'm like, you know, usually on the pamphlet, people, they would play like G major, C major, D major. I mean, like really the very easiest keys. And I'm like, but I don't know how to do that. And he's like, just go home and practice. What? C major, just practice it. Like how? Like just practice C major, and next time you're going to practice F major, and then you're going to practice B flat major, and then E flat, and then, you know, the cycle of fives. So I went back, and every time I would go back, next. And then it took like 6 months with Jerry, and every time. And I arrived at a point where I could play on every 12 keys with the pamphlet. I mean, it's like, but it changed my brain. It changed my brain.
Completely. And, you know, also because, you know what, the beauty of it, and that's what Oscar told me, is that way also you end up freeing yourself from playing the same licks.
Thank you.
Because that's important, you know, otherwise you end up playing the same licks and then you run out of vocabulary. And your vocabulary becomes very small.
And then you get bored with yourself.
Exactly. And then, you know, if you at least, you know, try to play in different keys, it forces your hands to move differently.
like Chopin, that he was composing in different keys because you would access different parts of your brain.
There is something to be said. Now I put that in practice only when, you know, when I record my albums, I first write down in one piece of paper the title each song, and then I write the keys next to it. I don't want to play everything in the same key.
Nice.
I put the keys, and then the next column is the tempos as well.
Wow.
So that way, at least I know I'm playing in all these different keys. And that way I know my ideas will be fresh in every key.
Great, amazing.
I do that even for the concerts. In the concerts, I always do that. I really advise, you know, whoever's listening, musicians, to do that. Try that. And it'll really free your mind. And it'll keep you creative in the middle of a concert as well.
I did something a couple of years ago. You know, I heard that Joe Zawinul did that. He took his keyboard. He had a keyboard specially made the other way around.
Oh.
Yeah, so he would not repeat himself. So I took and I ordered a pamphlet the other way rather than from the right to the left.
My God.
And I tried for about 3 months, but it was unbelievably difficult because it has to change your entire completely. It was
no, I would not advise that.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It's me, like I use Finale to
Yeah,
work on my computer, and I try to learn Sibelius, but I was completely confused.
Unbelievable.
Being 20 years with Finale, I said, forget it. I tried to learn the other one. I mean, I'm still struggling, but at some point I will learn it.
You learn it. Michel, please tell me how we all know what you do as a composer, as a piano player, as a virtuoso, as everything, as a jazz improviser, and you do everything amazing. How do you deal with technology? Do you play around at home with Logic, with some type of software? Do you like this? Do you think it can help some people? Of course, it's helpful for film composer or for some people. For some other people, they use too much this and they don't use music. What's your opinion about this?
Well, at the beginning, like I said, the first 20 years, I would say, I was very much into that technology and, all the different things, But then it became very specialized and it required too much time. So I wanted to put more time into my playing and my composing and not lose my personal computer, which is right here, So for me, I force myself when I'm composing, not to compose at a keyboard, not to compose. So what I do is I compose, believe it or not, away from a keyboard. Sometimes not even at the piano, only in my head first. You have to conceive your sound, your mood, your groove, and then you go to
the instrument.
Nice. Then I can go either way. But usually I go back to the piano then and scribble a couple of motifs, and then let that simmer in there for a while. And let it grow by itself. It grows like a tree, and I come back to it. I say, oh no, I can see it. And now it's like I always compare it to this analogy. Imagine the old cameras like a diaphragm that starts with a little pixel, one pixel only, and then you start opening the diaphragm. As the more you open it, you start seeing more of the picture, and then all of a sudden you start seeing more, and everything makes sense because all the colors start showing, and all of a sudden you have a big painting. That's how I compose. So
do you first compose the melody and then you arrange the chords or harmonize it, or what's your approach?
It sometimes depends. Sometimes it's the melody, but a lot of times it's the bass line, believe it or not. I maybe because I read when I was studying classical composition, Brahms was a big fan of the bass lines. He always said the bass is the secret in the composition. So listen to the bass lines on Brahms music. That's my advice. Then you understand what he was saying. Nice. And he said, the bass is so important because it's the foundation of everything else.
You can construct from there.
I try to put that into the jazz context and think of grooves. And so bass and drums maybe, or grooves, how, and that would be the skeleton. And then everything else on top is easy. It's just filling in the blanks. Well, sometimes it's the melody. Sometimes it's the mood. A lot of times it's the mood. Is it festive? Is it sad? Is it introspective?
What you want to express exactly?
Yeah. What do you want to express? I have written songs. Believe it or not, I had a very great piano teacher that made me practice with my eyes closed, because he said the keyboard should be in you, not outside of you.
Nice.
It should be in you. You don't need to look at the keyboard. You have to free yourself from looking at it. That's distracting. You have to know that you know exactly your space. You know where everything lands. So, I wrote a song called Twilight Glow, which I wrote, believe it or not, in a dark room. I just set myself in the keyboard and started this ostinato on the left and started playing. And as the song came down, the darkness came more, and the light in the room changed. I just closed my eyes and just played this thing. And I remember Sandra my wife came to the room. What are you doing playing in the dark? I said, no, don't turn on the lights. Don't turn on. Listen to this. Oh wow, that's nice. So my fantasy was like the ambers in the
Yeah.
how the fire shifts and all of that, and how it dies as well. So everything is music. You look at nature.
It's
Nature
music.
has music in itself. Sometimes I sit in my garden and just listen to, the sound of nature, the birds, and
Exactly. It's all music. It's all music.
it's all there.
It's all music and colors. All music and colors. All music and colors.
Yeah, and and I come from the Caribbean. Don't forget, we have a beautiful sea sounds. You know, so some of that is my music too. It's captured there. At least the vibe of that moment and the song.
What do you say? What do you have to say about the new generation, the new generation of musicians? Do you like what's happening?
Oh yeah, I think there is a lot of talented musicians around. A lot. I mean, and it's great. It's refreshing to hear and to see that the music will not die. On the contrary, and they are very competitive, which is very positive in a positive way, because that makes them practice better and get better. And they listen to each other. They are aware of each other. That's also very important. And at the same time, they're coming up with very fresh ideas. I always check them out. It's important to be in touch with what's happening because the music keeps on expanding. So like I said, I have a very open mind, and I check them at least once. I may like it, I may not like it, but one moment that I like to take, for example, to check out what's happening in music is when the Grammys arrive. Because I'm a member and I vote, and then I check. Oh, I don't know this name. Let me check out what he's into, and then I Spotify it or whatever, and find the Amazon Prime, whatever, on Apple Music, and I listen to his music just to make. But I listen to the whole album, as opposed to a lot of people that don't listen to 10 seconds of the first cut, and that doesn't really give you a picture. You have to understand the artist and see where they're going with the music. So I'm patient. I listen to most of it anyway, and at least I know what's going on. And keep in touch with the freshness of the movement and how music expands. And some of it may be very interesting. Some of it may not be as interesting.
What does Michel Camilo listens to every single day? Do you have a time throughout the day that you listen half an hour to music?
I try to.
You have time?
Yeah. For example, last night was I'm subscribed, at least for the classical music, I'm subscribed to this app called Medici.tv, which is really, really great, out of France. And for example, last night was a luxury. Last night was the reopening of Carnegie Hall. And it was the reopening gala. And Yuja Wang, one of my favorite pianists, was playing the Shostakovich piano concerto. And she did a beautiful job. And I wanted to listen to that with the Philadelphia Symphony Orchestra. So I listened to the full night. And it was like I was at Carnegie Hall, and I put it on my television and I, live stream it to my sound system. And I just blasted up. And it was a beautiful rendition. And they played everything. They played everything, including the Beethoven's Fifth as well.
Nice.
So, music, music is the universal language of the soul. I would say art in general is what connects all of us in the world, because it makes people vibrate. It makes people react. You may like it, you may not like it, but you're very reactive because you're checking it out.
Exactly.
You see a painting, you may like it or you may connect with that painting. It may remind you of something. It may give you a message, okay? Even if it's static. Music has the advantage that it moves in time and space. So, music will definitely evoke, if you're open to it, your happiest moments in life, your dearest loved ones, or your saddest moments. But it will make your heart race. It will make you cry. It will make you smile. It has that power. Once you realize that that is the power of music, then you become a more serious musician.
God bless you. God bless you. You said it so nice. God bless you.
The power they have over their audiences, and whoever is going to listen to your music, maybe 20 years from now, maybe 100 years from now. But I'll tell you this piece of advice to all the young musicians listening. Make sure whatever you do, you will always feel proud of it. So, you know, you never have to cough when that comes and plays on the radio.
Nice.
You know, that's so important. You know, you have to become a perfectionist as much as possible because it represents you, your sound, your soul, your feelings, your emotions. And they are like a photograph of that particular moment in time.
God bless you. So nice. Music, to me, music, it's sometimes like, to paraphrase everything that you said, music, it's a time machine. It can make you travel back and forth wherever you want, in the future, in the past, whatever you want. If you let it involve you, if you let her be your guide.
Well, yes, and also you have to be careful with the power of music as well, because music can be used even for violent means.
Yeah.
It's used to make war.
Yeah.
You know, it can invoke peace, like Beethoven's Ninth. You know, but it can also be used like a march, a military march.
Yeah.
To make people more violent and aggressive. You know, so you gotta be careful with that energy. It's the energy that you have. You know, so as an artist, you have to realize the power you have and the responsibility as well.
It is a responsibility, exactly.
You know, I will never forget when I went the first time to Bratislava, when it was communist still,
Yeah.
and we crossed the Iron Curtain, you know, to go there from Vienna. We just drove, and then I went and played with my trio at the Bratislava Jazz Festival, and I remember I played my song Caribe.
Yeah, beautiful song.
Caribbean introduction, you know, a long extended introduction. And you know, it was a little bit shocking because the front rows were full of military people.
I remember because I grew up here. I know.
Exactly, you know the feeling. You know the feeling. And politicians and whatever, you know.
Horrible.
And you know, a lot of medals and you know. But you know what was beautiful about that evening? That all of a sudden I see handkerchiefs coming out and people crying.
Crying. Wow.
So somehow I was able to touch their inner.
You spoke to their hearts.
Exactly. And that was an incredible moment, you know, because these are people that are very
tough and very, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you know, for them to open up for this brief moment in time.
Vulnerability. You made them, to show their vulnerability. To be vulnerable.
That's so beautiful. For me, it was an incredible moment, you know. Wow. So did I do that, you know?
Amazing.
Opens your eyes, you know, it really makes you conscious.
God bless you.
Of that particular moment.
Amazing.
And that happens, you know, it's a beautiful thing.
Does Michel has time for himself in terms of do you do any type of meditation, yoga, exercise in order to be yourself?
Yes, I meditate. And this is gonna sound weird. I meditate every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
I meditate. I wake up very early and I meditate.
You do transcendental meditation or what type of meditation?
You know, in my youth I studied yoga and I also studied martial arts. I was a gold medalist in Taekwondo.
No way.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's why I talk about space.
Yeah.
You know, we were very lucky. In the Dominican, we had a champion school. And John Rhee, the founder of Taekwondo, used to come himself from Korea and to teach us there. Yeah. So I was one of those fortunate students. And
Great.
You know, the discipline, the old-fashioned way, you know, the touch. One of the classes, believe it or not, was very esoteric. It was close your eyes, assume one position, and stay in the same position for 1 hour. Try that sometime, standing. It feels very strange. Then you start feeling the planet.
Yeah.
The vibration and the rotation of the planet, you know?
Wow.
Because you're going to feel how you know,
everything
you cannot
moves.
really stay in one position. All of a sudden you start shifting. And, you know, even if you think you're steady, you really aren't. So we are all in vibration all the time. And that's the big lesson of that class. And it makes you get in touch with the full spectrum of your being, not just the physical, but the mind and the soul as well. You know, so I'm a firm believer of that. I try not to lose that, you know, so I try to meditate that way and close my eyes, follow my breathing, you know, do different exercises. mainly, from the Hindu side and the Asian side.
So this helps you throughout the day and throughout your approach. I mean, to have the day to set up better, to set up your time better for the day.
For sure, even at the instrument, sometimes I would tell you, sometimes I feel like I'm a spectator of myself. Like I'm connected to my source energy, and I'm just letting it flow through me. So that all that practicing that you do in your private time is mainly to open that channel so you are not blocking the ideas from flowing. Most students, when I tell them that, they're thinking, he's making this.
No, it's true. It's very true.
You want to achieve that freedom of expression.
That's just to be in spirit, to be inspired. To be inspired means to be in connection with your spirit.
Exactly. And, mainly what you want to avoid, it's very important. The only one that was able to define this kind of thing was Kenny Werner in his book.
Okay. Yeah. Effortless mastery.
Effortless mastery.
Yeah.
He talks about that because there's the insecurities that come when you expose yourself to an audience.
Yeah.
And the insecurities are if you start self-doubting yourself, or if you miss one note here or you miss one note, then you start, and this is my classical piano teacher used to say, don't think about what you just played. Think about what's coming next. So, let it go. And my dear friend Leonard Slakin, the conductor, multi-Grammy winner conductor, he said, so who cares? There's always an S concert.
But it's so difficult. It's so difficult to let go.
I know, but it's traumatic. If you're a perfectionist and then you start martyrizing yourself in that moment, maybe you miss 10 bars because you're thinking about what didn't happen in the previous one or that didn't come out. So exactly. You got to learn to just set yourself aside and let it flow.
Exactly. That takes years of practice, and that takes years of Kenny Werner was talking in the book in Effortless Mastery, and to get out of the overthinking. That's why most of the people, when they are young, they get into other stuff, like smoking weed or whatever, because they free them and then they can be there. But I mean, with age and time and maturity, you understand that you can do this on your own with meditating and being mindful.
I call it awareness.
Awareness.
You gotta develop your awareness of yourself first.
Exactly.
Because if you don't love yourself, you cannot love the rest of the people. So you have to love what you are, what you came to do with your expression, and then you're able to share it.
You cannot give what you don't have.
Exactly, and you have to be honest with your audience too. The audience will know if you're faking it.
They feel you immediately. It's unbelievable.
And the problem with jazz, and this is the problem with jazz, is that you test it constantly. Because you know how you're tested? I'll tell you. If you're playing in a band, and all of a sudden your sidemen are getting more applause than you, all of a sudden you become very insecure. Because that applause, oh my God, they're not applauding me, they're applauding this. Oh, I must be sounding terrible. I must be playing terrible.
That's how it is. Exactly.
Because no audiences are equal anywhere.
Exactly.
They're all reacting in a different way. They're all listening in a different way. At the end of the day, you are yourself looking in the mirror. And basically, you have to be sure that you're being honest, sincere, and this is what you feel. So, some people may connect, some people may not connect. So what? At least you have to be feeling well about what you're doing. And you are the ultimate judge at the end of the day. You cannot lie to yourself. And you know when you play good, and you know when you play not so good.
God bless you. So nice, so nice. Michel.
Important. And not to be jealous of anybody else. On the contrary, the stage is like a sacred
place, a temple.
Everybody is special. And everybody has a moment to shine. So this I learned from Paquito de Rivera.
So nice.
You're the beautiful leader.
Thank you so much. Michel, usually at the end of the podcast, I ask everyone, in let's say 20, 30, 50, 100 years, if this format, YouTube, whatever, is going to be on a microchip, whatever, I want people to remember a personal quote. I mean, something that out of all your experiences, out of your entire life, you gather and you can share with the future generations. What would Michel Camilo, summarize in a couple of words, in several words, about life.
This is very important. Dreams come true. You know, they may take years. It depends on the effort and the energy that you put into them, but they do come true. Don't be afraid of dreaming big. Everything is possible.
God bless you.
It's in you. Your power, you have the power to make them true. But you know, become a magnet of what you really want to be.
To accomplish.
And let it flow. Your dreams will come true.
God bless you, because I had a dream 25 years ago when I've seen you first time. One day I'm going to play with Michel Camilo, and I played 20 years later, or 10 years later, or 15 years later. So, and it at the moment that I've seen you, it was not impossible. It was like it was impossible, and it happened. So you never know. You never know.
And we had a great time.
Exactly.
And we sounded good together. So,
exactly.
You know,
exactly.
It's all about that. It's just, you have to have faith in the dreams will come true. You have to ask, and then it is given. The universe is always listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Michel. Thank you so much. God bless you. I love you very much. And I wish you all the best to you and Sandra. And God bless you. And thank you for the music. And thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for this interview.
My pleasure, Damian.
God bless you.
I'm glad that we talked to each other, and I miss you, man.
Me too.
And hopefully maybe March.
For sure, for sure. I will start from now on to get in touch with you and to make it happen.
Who knows?
I love you.
It can come true.
Exactly. I love you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Love you too, man.
All the best. All the best.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.